There we go. Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland. We are still an Arsenal podcast, irrespective of the results that we have seen in the last 48 hours. This week we've got Danny joining me today. I've got my speaker on as well, so I can hear myself talking back to myself. Absolute amateur hour in the face of a guest that we've got this week as well. But firstly, I'll introduce one of our regulars. It is Richard. Richard, how are you?
I'm not too bad, my man. How is yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. As you can see, only slightly flustered. But if it gets really bad, I'll start cracking into the drinks globe behind me.
Sounds good.
Absolutely.
Is there actual drinks in there?
I mean, for everybody who is not on audio, there is a full stocked drinks globe. Plymouth gin is probably what you can see from the front. There's also Cointreau, a couple of bits of rum, and some Polish vodka.
There I thought I was being the swish one with my library behind me. But that is,
know, right?
That is outstanding. Top effort.
Well, I can only hope that our next guest has got a smoking jacket on and has got a cigar in hand to just completely finish this off. But I will introduce him. I think people will know him by his Twitter than anything else, which is @GunnerPunner, and it is JB. JB, how are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. I'm good. I'm going to ask how you are again because it feels like the right thing to say, even though we've just heard. But how are you?
That's all right. I can try and think of another answer and do this. I'm getting used to doing kind of like morning stand-ups with my team at the moment, and it is repeating the same thing 7 times. But I am okay. All the better for having you on and trying to do a podcast, which I'm still going through pre-season is probably the way I would say it with hosting after the little break we've had. But let's get into things. JB, I'll just kind of stick with you. Just kind of introduce yourself to the Bergkamp Wonderland faithful. Why did you become an Arsenal fan, or was it a choice?
Why did I become? It wasn't a choice. It was a fortunate. I wasn't really born as one, but I was born into an Arsenal family. So, yeah, my grandfather ended up. I guess, grew up living a road away from Highbury. So that's where it started, and it got passed down through the generations to me, my cousins, the whole family. There's one rogue United fan on my mum's side, but we'll let that go. Essentially born and grew up North London, and thankfully support the correct team.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got the opposite issue with my grandfather's side of them being of the other North London side.
Barnet.
Yeah, that's the one. You can't help taste. I mean, what was your first Arsenal game as well? And I think at the same time, do you want to pick up who your kind of favourite Arsenal players are, current and all time, if it's not both?
You're testing me now. I was thinking because the second bit is quite hard not to be boring. But anyway, I'm going to be boring. But first Arsenal game I went to, I actually had the privilege of going to an Arsenal-Bolton game, I think 2001. Arsenal drew 1-1 with Bolton. And I had the privilege of seeing goals from Michael Ricketts and Francis Jeffers in the same game, which I don't know how many people saw either of them score live. So you don't forget these things. First Arsenal game I remember, actually, you guys helped me out with this because I was on another pod, and I said I remembered watching an Arsenal Wolves game in the 90s in my parents' bedroom when I was a younger punner, and apparently, and I think this adds up. I think it was an FA Cup game. This was the '98 semi-final, so that is the first Arsenal game I ever remember watching. So there we go. My all-time favourite Arsenal player is unsurprisingly Thierry Henry, and I really wanted to be controversial, but I just kind of want to be right. And my current favourite player is a trickier one, and it depends whether you talk about kind of stylistically or all-round package. I think all-round package, I'm going to have to probably land on Tierney or Xhaka, which is, I just feel like almost too obvious. And stylistically, I'm a lover of the technical players, so bite your tongue. But Ozil and Pepe are the types of players I like to watch. We can have plenty of conversations about how they play and how they are playing. But if I could build a team, I want as many players like that as I can.
So it's interesting. You've all picked for current players, left-footed players. Is that something that are you left-footed? That's going to be my quick question.
I wouldn't say I have a stronger foot, to be honest. I'm equally adept with either.
Show off.
Humble brag.
The best thing is there's absolutely no way of you disproving that.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. But it was always interesting when someone picks, I think, just left-footed players. If someone just picked all right-footed players, you wouldn't bat an eyelid.
Do you think they're better to watch? I
I'm
don't know why it feels like they are.
I'm left-footed, so I don't necessarily get the... I don't want to say Messi hype, because it's clearly not hype. But there's some things that Messi does that I can comprehend how he's doing it, that people were like mind blown, because I think it's about body shape. Whereas Cristiano Ronaldo does something with his right foot, and I'm like, how have they done that? And people are like, well, it's obvious. He's just, hit it with his foot.
There is something about like the natural, you defend more naturally on your stronger foot, and therefore if you've got, I guess it's similar in boxing. I was going to say all left-footed players are just a bit more aesthetically pleasing, and then I remembered that in recent years we've had Kolasinac and Podolski at Arsenal. So I don't know.
They're either that or they've got a thunder bastard. There's no middle ground with a left footer.
Well, they all just get pigeonholed. Like if you're if you're like a youth team, there's going to be one or two left-footed players. So they all end up playing left back or left wing, and then maybe like during their careers they move around a bit. But maybe it's that. Maybe all the left-footed players just go through a funnel and end up playing the same place.
Yeah, all of them will be given the stigma of having a cultured left foot.
Hang on, we're getting into a different podcast there if we're going to go through cliches in football.
Another left-footed player who played for Arsenal.
Oh God, there we go. Now that's why you're gonna punter, because of the wit and dry humour for that one there. Should we try and go through the Liverpool game? I've got I don't know. I'm blinded by the referees' problems on this, Richard. Could you kind of bring some more semblance to it rather than I just go on a rant about Mane's elbow and Jota's handball?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like I said, that Liverpool side, they were at the top of their game against us. One of the things that struck me in that game was the quickness in which they moved the ball around. It was literally control the ball, pass it off. Very little idling on the ball or looking up for a pass. As soon as they received it, it was gone. It was very, very quick. They were absolutely phenomenal. It was one of the most impressive performances I've seen from an opposition against Arsenal in quite a while. Like I said, the intensity and speed of their press and movement off the ball and stuff like that, the aggressiveness, it was just absolutely outstanding. I think the ref did have an absolute shocker, and like as I said on the live show after the game, I was absolutely spitting blood at some of the decisions the referee was making. But the referee's poor performance was not why we lost that game. That Liverpool were just unfortunately better than us. I was so impressed with that Liverpool performance. I really, really was.
Yeah, Jamie, did you find any performances in there that, excuse me, that we could take away as positive? What did Liverpool do to us to kind of hold us back and basically shackle us so well?
Yeah, look, I think I completely agree with Richard, right? And I think we have to be sensible with our expectations now kind of for the season, but also going into a game against pretty much the best side in Europe, right? Liverpool will beat much better teams than us convincingly this season. With context, that's the third time in like 5 months we've played this Liverpool team. We've used the same system 3 times. We've only lost. Yesterday was the first time we lost. So yeah, look, I think with context, that's not awful. And the flip side is you could see that they probably had the experience of watching us use this system under Arteta for a few months now as well. And therefore they came out knowing what to expect. They came out knowing that we'd want to play down the left, and they really went after us in the build-up aggressively. They forced us just to go long. They made that ball to Aubameyang really difficult. They countered our press. I think we did try to press them a bit. We sat in shape, but we tried to press them a bit, and every time we did it, they just got out of it with a long diagonal. They aggressively hit Salah and Mane to feet, and I don't think we had a response to that. But that's where we are. I think there are a lot of players who didn't look great yesterday. I thought Holding looked quite shaky on the ball at times. I thought Leno looked a bit shaky on the ball, with the context that they were being pressed to pieces. And I think El Neni, we see his limitations in that he didn't do anything special with the ball, and he's often kind of just out of the way without it. And I think Xhaka really struggled, and he's not that comfortable under extreme pressure. But he also, when you have Ceballos next to him, you can't press Xhaka as much as they did because there's another threat. And I think having El Neni in the team allows the opposition to kind of go hard on Xhaka. So there were individual weaknesses exposed. I don't really blame anyone. I think we just played a better opponent. And I agree, I haven't seen Liverpool play that well in a while. They were at the top of their game. I think they had a point to prove. You can't expect us to beat them every time we play them, and I don't think we embarrassed ourselves. So yeah, look, it was a tough game against a better team, and they beat us comfortably. Having said that, and I don't want to blame the ref because it sounds awful and petty, like they won fair and square. I do think if Mane gets sent off in the second minute, it's a different game. It's hard to escape that, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, I think even down to the minutiae of Fabinho not getting picked up on the small little fouls, or that weren't even called as fouls necessarily. I think just the way they broke up any chance of us making promising attacks was where a lot of my vitriol against the referee went. But let's talk about things that we had in our own wheelhouse that we could control, and talk about, I think in the running order, I've said Lacazette from 0 to 0. And that's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek about how he is perceived by, I would say, coming to the majority of our fan base now, especially those on Twitter, for his performances that we've seen from Lacazette across since, I'd say, Emery's second season. I'll come straight back to you, JB, on this. And what's your thoughts on Lacazette? And do you feel like the criticism that he has received after missing, I say only one of those chances, because I'm pretty sure the other one he's offside anyway, is kind of at that point? Yeah.
Sorry, I'm still nothing personal. I'm just feeling a bit petty after the game still. What are my thoughts? I think he's fine. He's not an elite, he's not a world level striker. He's not the kind of player who's going to get you 20, 30 league goals in a season. And we're clearly using him for a very functional role. What we're seeing is the limitations, which is, he does a lot of work. He does a lot of work outside the box, a lot of work off the ball, and then struggles to get into the most dangerous areas and be explosive in those areas. I wouldn't say convert, right? Because I think he actually converts reasonably well. He shifts the ball well, gets shots off well. He's just not explosive. He's not an athlete. And I think we saw that with the chance he missed, where his first touch was just awful. They were debating the XG, and I think the XG of it was 0.4. But I think it's an easier chance if he doesn't balls up the first touch. So, look, it looks like we're not going to be moving him on. I'd love to move him on and get someone who is just a much more natural goal threat through the middle, or just a lot more mobile. It looks like we're kind of stuck with him. He's been a confusing player throughout his time at Arsenal, because I think he wasn't the player I thought we were getting. I thought we were getting a bit more of a pacey kind of number 9. From what we've seen, he's always been a bit of a second striker, and I think he needs people around him to be at his best. So, look, I respect the guy he's clearly working his arse off for the team, and I admire that. I don't think he's the type of player we need there. I also don't think he's the level we need there, especially to kick on. So, if we could hashtag BLGE, Bin Laka Get Edward, or a similar kind of multifunctional modern striker, I'd go for it. Clearly, the midfield's the priority, so I don't think that'll happen imminently. But yeah, look, I don't really hold any personal grudges against the guy, but he's. I think we need an upgrade.
Yeah, and Rich, I think, well, come in and put what my thoughts are a little bit on Lacazette and then pass over to you. I think he's in a little bit of a similar situation like we've got with Mustafi. If he has a decent season with us, he could be playing for a new contract. Do you think that Lacazette could achieve that necessarily with us? He's got 2 years left on his deal now. He is in that very much, if we listened to Don Raul at that time, that's the point and when you look to move a player on or get him to sign a new deal.
Yeah, it's a difficult one with him because I agree with what JB was saying. Like he's not what I thought we were getting when we signed him, and he is working his absolute socks off. But I don't think he's capable of really excelling in what we're asking him to do. Like he's not a hold 'em up forward, centre forward. He's not a big muscular centre forward number 9 who's going to hold the ball up really well. He can do it sometimes, and every now and again he can play a ball out like he did it I think in the semi-final against Man City, and he did it again last night in the lead up to the other night in the lead up to the goal. Xhaka played the ball into him and he adjusted his body really well to play the ball into the path of Maitland-Niles to then set up the goal. But he's not quite quick enough. He's not quite strong enough. He's not quite tall enough to be an aerial threat kind of thing. I think he needs a different system to get the best out of him. That being said, he's got, what is it, 3 goals in 3 games? Something like that. So he's not doing too badly, I guess. I think had we not have needed to upgrade our midfield so eagerly, I think he would have been gone this summer. I think we would have shipped him out. But again, like someone like Edouard, someone who is a bit more physical and can bring other players into the game and stuff like that. He's going to have something phenomenal to get another contract, I would say. I think something phenomenal is going to happen for him. Hey, I hope it happens, because if it solves a problem, we don't have to buy another player, kind of thing. But yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. I think next summer he'll be one to be moved on.
Yeah, that's fair enough, I think, on that one.
And that's not me, and that's not me to try and be flippant or disrespectful to the guy. He, like I say, he can only do what he can do. It's you're asking him to do something that he's not particularly built for or has really ever played in his career, kind of thing, from what I could gather. So, and he's doing the best he can. Like I say, you can see like he always has to come off after like 70 odd minutes because the guy runs himself into the ground for us. So that's not me like having a pop at him or saying he's shit or he's saying get rid of the bum or anything like that. It's it's not that at all. I think for us to progress, I think we need something different from him.
Yeah, I think I completely agree. And what I think we'll come on to like the midfield conundrum and how that could help the likes of Lacazette. But we've spoken about, the one Liverpool game we've got in this week. Let's talk about the other one. Let's go quickly into this. JB, do you expect to see wholesale changes from Arteta on this one? We'll ignore what Klopp may or may not do in the next game. Let's concentrate on us. Do you see Arteta ringing the changes?
Yeah, I mean, I think if he could make 11 changes, he would. The last thing I want to see is us messing up the Sheffield United game on the weekend because we've done something silly tomorrow night. And to be honest, knowing Liverpool, I wouldn't be surprised if Klopp sent out his nephew to manage the game and a load of under 12s. I think they tried to throw the game against us last year, didn't they? And we ended up.
Didn't they put the reserve coach out to do the press conference?
Yeah, I think Pep Linders or whatever his name is took that, and unfortunately we also put Unai Emery out to take charge of the match, which was probably our main undoing there. But yeah, look, I think Eddie we'll get Eddie. I think good game time for Pepe. You'll get Saka playing. it's interesting, right? We've actually got. I was thinking about this yesterday. We've got good depth. The problem is, like, if you put out 2 11s, the kind of quality level is pretty much the same across 20 of them. It's not like we have like a clear first team and then a drop off. We've got a load of players who are all pretty good, not enough players who are great, and then not enough players who are obviously squad players. So I think we need to sort that balance out. But it does mean that we can rotate almost an entire 11, assuming Cedric actually exists, and go for it. Clearly, they're going to be playing like Origi, Elliott, Shaqiri, all that lot. So yeah, I'd expect as close to 11 changes as Arteta can get away with. We might even see our new amazing goalkeeper.
Let's hope so. The Icelandic legend. But at least, Rich, now we can now do thunderclaps when we get the Emirates.
Looking forward to that.
Absolutely. Do you expect anything different from Liverpool? I think, other than I think the post-game show is just me on my own at the moment. But yeah, is there anything else you want to add to what you expect from Liverpool?
No, I think he'll completely ring in the changes. Klopp doesn't care about the League Cup. Like I say, you'll see the Origis, the Shaqiris, the Elliots and stuff like that come into the squad. But I mean, I expect Arteta to play a similar sort of team to what he did against Leicester. So like, we had. I don't know if he'll put the new goalkeeper in. Probably, I can't see why not. But against Leicester, we had Holding, Luiz, and Kolasinac as the back three. We had Maitland-Niles, El Nene, Joe Willock, and Saka across the middle, and then Pepe, Eddie, and Nelson, Reece Nelson. I can't. I would imagine that it's going to be pretty similar to that. Probably, maybe one of the defenders swap out and bring in Gabriel because he didn't play against Liverpool, and maybe I don't know. Hopefully, we'll see a proper debut for Saliba as well if he's all okay. But yeah, I don't think he's going to risk putting in Aubameyang and stuff like that when we got Sheffield United like 4 days later.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think we play Sheffield United on Sunday afternoon, and I very nearly called the game against Liverpool the second leg. When you were struggling to remember who we just played, because it really does feel like that, playing them so quickly back to back. Before we jump into that Sheffield United game, quick shout into the chat box as well. I can see there's a load of conversation going in on there. Femi has informed me that he will be joining me on Sunday for the Sheffield United game. So if anybody wants to come watch that, you can. If you don't have to. But if you can, just pop in, give us a little thumbs up on the YouTube, or you can watch us on Twitch. I think we now stream out to there. Facebook Live, I think we're doing streams out there as well. Danny will correct me if I'm wrong, but I won't see his chat. And yeah, we've even got a Discord channel as well, kids. I really do feel like the Steve Buscemi meme now of that. It's coming up to 20 odd days before I turn 30. So there's a lot of things like that. That's like, I'm now over the hill. That's it. I'm not getting an England call up. I'm almost assured of that now, that I'm over the hill. People on Football Manager will be selling me off. And I think Danny's looked at where he can.
Goalkeepers only start to come into their prime years post 30. You've still got some to.
That's true. But I have got zero hand-eye coordination to the point that these glasses are very much needed. Femi's told me that no, he's actually doing the Liverpool game. I'm not doing the Liverpool game, Femi. It's too late. I'm going to go to bed at that time. But yeah, let's just go into Sheffield United. A little preview. I thought Danny would grab me some stats, and he's obviously just left and not sent them to me. But I'm trying to think of the last time we played them was just after the lockdown, wasn't it?
Yeah, FA Cup game, right?
FA Cup game, Danny Ceballos just getting it, near the death. I'll come straight into with you, JB, on this one. Sheffield United, do you think there's a bit of I think the fact that the crowd isn't there, do you think that helps us in this instance with them, or have they got one of those? I know you're a lover of things like the XG, things like that, chain build-ups and all the passing stats. I have watched a bit of Sheffield United. I do like the way they do their build-up play at the moment, and it looks like they're just, need a better striker, and they could punish a team like us.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm not usually confident ahead of games, so I'm slightly worried about saying this, but I did get a sense that, not second season syndrome, but Sheffield United did start to get a bit found out. I think when they came into the league, everyone was just blown away by this whole roaming centre-backs thing they had going on. The individual kind of player quality in that team wasn't amazing, and especially post-lockdown, I think they struggled a bit. Henderson was clearly really good for them. And this year they've gone and bought themselves a goalkeeper who, I don't know if he's got no arms or kind of T-Rex type arms. Ramsdale's like, he's just not very good. He doesn't really reach anything. Kind of like Pickford a bit. So I don't think they're the team they were last year, for sure. They've struggled early on. I do feel like they're the type of team we generally struggle against because they are reasonably solid defensively still, and I don't know what we can do yet with the ball against the deep block. So that'll be interesting to see. I'm still reasonably confident, and especially given I think we outplayed them quite comfortably in the FA Cup from memory, but that could genuinely just be me rose tinted glasses because we won. So yeah, I'm pretty confident. I think again, definitely make sure we just rest people tomorrow night and then go hard at them on the weekend. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. So from memory, Rich, I think we allowed McGoldrick to have his first goal of the season when we played them.
If ever you're on a drought or you need a win or you come and play Arsenal, we'll help you out. I think I remember it similarly to JB in the fact that we mainly outplayed them, and then we kind of tired late in the second half. They got an equaliser, and then at the death, Ceballos scored the winner. But I don't think they've been on the greatest of forms since lockdown. I think they've lost all 3 games of the season, I think, and I don't even think they've scored a goal. After I was looking at things in the league this year. No, not the greatest, but it's perfect to play us, isn't it? It's always the way. It'd be interesting to see, see what we do against them. One of the players who worries me in their side is McBurney. Whenever he comes on, he's that type of rough, tough, big, tall git who will absolutely buffet our central defenders all over the place. I watched them the other day, and when he came on and they went more direct, they absolutely changed what they were doing. Their upturn and ability to hold on to the ball was much better when he came on. So hopefully he at least doesn't start or doesn't play against us. But I think we need to be confident. We need to be bold, and we need to start taking these teams apart. I know it don't seem a bit arrogant and a bit but we need to start imposing our will on teams like Sheffield United, who I think massively punched above their weight for the first part of last season. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see, like, if he. I imagine he'll still. I can't really see him changing the formation too much, but. Because they play 3 at the back and 5 in midfield with 2 up top, and I don't want our midfield to get overrun by being outnumbered. I want us to be able to dictate play and have the creativity and boldness to take on these teams. We're better than this. We should be better than Sheffield United, and and take them apart. But yeah, we'll see what happens come Sunday.
You mentioned about the fact that they're going to more or less pad out that midfield with 5 across the middle, 3 at the back as well. How are there any changes you'd make to what you would say is the normal lineup we've seen under Arteta in the 3 games or 4 games we've seen this season to help kind of combat that? Because you have seen a struggle to break teams down, unless they're Fulham, of course. But Rich,
But I mean, even that wasn't the easiest cakewalk in the world. I think we need an extra body in midfield. The only caveat and problem with that is David Luiz is not the best in a 2. He's not a great one-on-one defender. He gets done for pace and stuff like that. So it's do you risk it? Do you go and try and have just go forward about and put that extra person in midfield? Have Xhaka and El Neni as your more water carrier central players, and allow Ceballos, who looked really strong in his cameo at Liverpool. He created 2 or 3 really, really good chances for Lacazette. Allow him a little bit more license and a little bit more freedom in midfield.
Yeah.
I don't know how Arteta's going to play. If it's going to be too early for him, if he's waiting for our fantastic new double signing of Partey and OR, but I would imagine the formation is going to be similar with the 3 at the back, just because I don't think the defenders are ready yet, and I don't think our midfield definitely isn't ready yet. What would you do, Josh?
Go on, Josh.
I think you're on mute, Josh.
I am.
There we go.
What can I say? It's not like I wear a headset for most of my working day either and know how to turn it on and off in terms of mute. But what I would do for the midfield is kind of difficult because I don't think we've got the overall personnel in the squad to necessarily go with a reliable 3 in midfield. I think the Xhaka, El Neni and Ceballos doesn't necessarily work for me. I think you could get away with it in certain games, but I don't think Sheffield United is one of them. Sorry, JB, go in.
It's a fiddly one, right? Like, I think, first of all, until, let's call them proper midfielders arrive, this is the system we're going to be playing. It's not your conventional back 3. It's very much a kind of 5 when we defend, and a more of a 4-3-2-1 or a 4-3-3 when we have the ball. And I think you can tinker with that a bit. So, for example, I would, if you're looking to break down a team, I think Saka instead of Maitland-Niles makes sense, because Saka's a bit more of a lock picker. He can also overlap down the left. I think Maitland-Niles has tried a few, we've seen a few times in recent games, he'll get that overlap in, and then, his left foot isn't amazing. And he's attempting those crosses, which is fair play to him, but he's not Saka. So I think Saka in that wing-back central midfield role makes sense. The other thing, to Richard's point, I think, if I was looking at all our defenders from what I've seen this season and I was worried about McBurney, I would be tempted to use Gabriel in some capacity. He's looked really tough, and he's clearly got the height that a lot of our other players don't have. The issue there is, it looks like Tierney's the only one who can play that left of the 3, because you end up playing left back a lot. And I can't see Arteta dropping David Luiz. And I can't see David Luiz or Gabriel playing on the right of the 3, which basically means right now, you've basically got Gabriel and Luiz competing for that middle of the 3 spot. And I think you've got Holding, Saliba and Mustafi, if they're all fit, competing for the right of the 3. Which basically means we're kind of stuck. If you want to play Luiz, it's going to be Holding, Luiz, Tierney until something drastic happens. So I think that's what we'll see. We will probably, I agree, we'll have Ceballos, Xhaka. I would like to see Saka used. But I don't know. And then, look, if Eddie has a great game tomorrow night, maybe he gets the nod on the weekend.
Yeah, I say Saka is the player that I think we missed against Liverpool as well, because of how quiet Aubameyang, or I felt Aubameyang, was in that game.
I think I saw it's 3. I think he's won 3 games in a row against Liverpool now without a shot, Aubameyang.
Yeah, and that just tells you, well, there's 2 ways to look at it. Either Liverpool are doing a great job at shutting him out of the game, or we're not doing a good enough job getting him into the game.
I would say ideally he would be having shots.
Yeah, absolutely. It's even from the point of just having a shot. I mean, Xhaka can have a shot in a game because no one will close him down for 35 yards and he can hit one, and that's at least 1 on the board from in terms of stat padding point of view. So I think Aubameyang can or should have had shots against us, and I think one of the things that wasn't helping us was, as you say, with Maitland-Niles on the kind of that half space, because he's right-footed, he can't necessarily always play that ball out as quickly down the inside of the centre back and on the correct side of the wing back that's chasing back. You kind of want to stick it. It's the ball that a left-footed player can play on that side and a right-footed player can play on the right-hand side. I think everybody knows, a bit like I'd say the handball rule, everybody knows what handball is, but you can't necessarily put it in words properly in a succinct way. But yeah, I think Saka is the big one that we missed from Liverpool, and was kind of surprised we didn't see him come in that game as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like, I'm generally of the mind that if you're playing more direct, and I know a lot of managers go against this, but I'm going to stick with it because this is the JB view of football. If you're playing more direct, I think you want wingers on their natural sides because you need to be combining and whatever if they're kind of inverted. If you want that break, like we got lucky with our goal, but if that's a left-footed player doing what Maitland-Niles does, there's an easy run and ball across. Often the players are much more isolated, playing in bigger spaces. I'd rather have a right footer on the right, a left footer on the left, and just have that natural way of scoring. So I completely agree with you. If you're looking to counter teams, having Saka on the left makes such a difference.
I think the idea of having Maitland-Niles against Liverpool was that for when Salah cuts in on his right, he's coming into Maitland-Niles' stronger foot. I think that was more the idea of having Maitland-Niles in that position against Liverpool.
Completely, and he did it brilliantly last season. He did it. I mean, he shut Mahrez down in the FA Cup. He shut Salah down in the Community Shield. He's a brilliant one-on-one defender. And it's the balance question, right? It's like, which way do you want to go? Do you want to have the counter-attacking threat more, or do you want to just lock down their star player?
Yeah. Sorry, say again.
Yeah,
I didn't. I lost that last bit.
It was the balance, right? It's like, do you want to lock down their star player? Do you go for Maitland-Niles to just go one-on-one with Salah? Or do you want the attacking threat and just worry them a bit more by having Saka there?
Yeah, it's that difficult balance, isn't it? It's what do you favour? Sometimes I guess you just got to pick and choose in what you're going to get. Were we going to be more likely for Saka to impose himself against Liverpool, or need Maitland-Niles to shut down Salah? I agree with you guys. I think Saka coming in against Sheffield United would be, a good thing. So you saw those 2 key passes he played for both of the goals against was it West Ham?
Yeah.
That's the ability the guy's got. I mean, he didn't have the greatest games in the world, but those 2 lock picking passes were pivotal.
Yeah, and I think that's as we've kind of seen it, the classic Arteta goal is all about being played down that left-hand side. Tierney starting the move with his left foot into someone else like Saka, who's then playing in Aubameyang into that right place. That ball is generally kind of left footer into Xhaka or a Saka, who's then playing in perfectly into that correct space for Aubameyang to get in behind. And I think where we've got the opportunity to take the game and be on the front foot, I think we should totally be going with Saka. I think that's where, if we'd say 3 seasons ago, if we had, Wenger still at the helm, I think we'd probably see a Saka start that Liverpool game over a Maitland-Niles because of the way he wants to be kind of positive, whereas we've got that nice balance with Arteta, who isn't as pragmatic as Emery, should we say? Not that I don't think anybody is as pragmatic as Emery. Maybe Tony Pulis, but It's difficult on that one. So I have spotted somebody sneaking in to our chat box as well, who I think in this parish we have not seen for many a year, and that is FK. Someone I think we're all familiar with. And
Is
FK,
he the man of the chocolate voice? Chocolate voice.
he is. I'm going to call him out. FK, you need to come on this podcast. Danny will strap you down, and not in a good way, to make sure you're back on, because I think everybody would like to hear your dulcet tones again.
I'm
yeah.
taking full credit for his return.
Oh, if you're the Mesut Ozil to the name a striker that he's passed to and they've scored that resulting chance in the last 2 seasons to his FK, then yeah, we're absolutely, we'll love that for him to come back on.
I'll take it.
I think probably because the last time I saw him was with Jason Davies, and that's probably enough reason to have been put off coming back on. But yeah, let's go through some listeners' questions. We did get some decent questions in this time. I don't want to call you freeloading scumbag, because I think it would be nice to be nice to you for once, because I gave you a bit of a rollicking, listeners, and you have pulled through and given us some good questions. So first one, I'm now going to say it's from our very own John Welsh. So it's a bit of a cheat, that one. I don't mean John. He doesn't count as a listener. He's part of us. We discussed this a little earlier. Rich, I'll come to you on this one. Do you think we could get through the season? I imagine hitting the goals we need to hit, trying to get into Champions League, trying to get, at least pushing for European spots, if we sold Lacazette to fund midfield purchases and didn't replace him?
Ooh, that's a lot of pressure on young Nketiah. Because I don't think, because then as backup, you're going to have maybe Bellerin until Martinelli gets fit, because I don't think Arteta likes having Aubameyang down the middle. So I kind of would say no. I see what he's saying in the sense of, if we could get good money for Laka to get both of our midfield targets. If he's not exactly firing on all cylinders and doing great for us, then why not? But I think that'd be a lot of pressure to put on Nketiah, who, he's not exactly established completely kind of thing. He still goes missing every now and again in games. Excuse me. Yeah, I would probably say no to that. I would say we'd need to have at least someone else to do that job instead of him. I think that would be very, very difficult, because I don't think, like I said, I don't think Aubameyang can do what Arteta wants that central striker to do, as in play with his back to goal, hold up the ball, link up with others. He's much more of a off the shoulder player, making runs and things like that. So sorry, John, I'm going to say no.
That's fair enough. JB, I'm going to ask you a question where, if you've been looking at the chat, it's not going to be in the same order as it's been answered, because I want to tee you up for something. You could probably work out what it's going to be based on the chat we were having earlier. But this is from,
you had to, didn't you?
Yeah, it's from Carrie Tannen, and it wouldn't be amiss if I didn't tee you up, and because I think it's a view that I've not heard on many podcasts at all. On could Arsenal swap Torreira and Lacazette to bring in Thomas Partey, one of only 2 players we've been linked with all summer, it feels. And yeah, would you do it for?
All right, that's the question. I mean, could we? Yes, we could.
The answer to that.
Would I do it?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't. I do think there is clearly something to be done there, in terms of, clearly we've been trying to sell Torreira. He wants to leave. I know secondhand via Torreira that anyway, someone who spoke to him, basically playing as advanced as Emery wanted him to, messed with him quite a lot. And Imagine you're 22 years old, move to a new country to play for a big club, underperforming big club, but a big club, and the manager in a dysfunctional system, you're like a tough tackling, ball winning scrapper, and the manager wants you to play high up the pitch, press, win the ball, get goals and assists, all the rest. And imagine whilst you're doing that, you've got one of the club's biggest ever signings and one of the best number 10s of the last 10 years sulking on the bench because he's not playing and you are. Now, I can understand what that would do to a 22-year-old player. And I think we're still seeing the ramifications of that. I think Torreira's a good player. I don't think he suits what Arteta wants to do, and it makes sense for him to leave. Anyway, back to the question. I feel like what you really asked me there is a party question, isn't it? That's what you really. I can see you smirking.
I might have teased that one, to kind of work out whether or not you
can see you smirking.
It's a given.
Do you know? I might swap Lacazette for Partey, but I think the bigger question here is: would I pay 50 million euros cash for Thomas Partey? And the answer to that is no, right? And it's a few reasons really. It's we've seen how tight cash is at Arsenal this summer, right? And whatever we are bidding or we're not bidding for clearly it's a bit of a struggle getting the money together to go and just buy him, right? And maybe we're playing games, but let's take it as read that there is not hundreds of millions of cash sitting around at the Emirates. If you are in that financial position, you need to be very sensible with how you spend your money, and you can't afford to get it wrong. So is it sensible to go and put 50 million cash, right? And buying Partey for 50 is different from buying Hour for 45 because most transfers are installments and release clauses are straight outright buys. On a 27-year-old midfielder who plays for a team that is a bit weird. A good team, Atletico are a good team, but they play weird football. And I wouldn't necessarily assume because someone looks good in their team, they'd be great in the Premier League or for Arsenal, right? Is that a good idea? Well, I would say it may be a good idea if that player is absolutely guaranteed to be transformative, won't burn you by kind of peaking now, probably post-peak. You won't be absorbing a 5-year, 200 grand a week contract where at age 30 you're like, shit, it's Sokratis or Ozil or whoever all over again. So you basically need to believe that Partey is a generational talent of a midfielder who will transform us as a football club, won't drop in the next 4 years, and will guarantee us Champions League football. And nothing anyone I trust has said suggests that he is that player. Now, I might be wrong, but I think that's a huge gamble, and the downsides for Arsenal of dropping 50 million euros is enormous. So, and I'm also not convinced he's exactly the type of player we need, right? For me, Auer, who plays higher up the pitch and links kind of more naturally to attack, is a nicer fit because I think we're struggling to create chances as a team right now. So if you could offer me Partey at 30 million, maybe I'd bite. Clearly, it still depends on the wages. And if you could do something smart that involves Torreira going the other way, maybe I'd bite. But the opinion that I've got a lovely amount of abuse from some really nice people on the internet for saying is I wouldn't drop 50 million euros cash for Thomas Partey. And I stand by that.
Yeah, and that's fair enough. I think it's one of those that I kind of wanted to say, get you to like vocalize it here as well, because there's only so much you can put into 240 characters as well, that there is a lot more to the argument than perhaps a single tweet that someone's seen and then gone off on one. And I think that's, one of the reasons why I wanted to kind of set you up for it was that kind of thing. And I kind of agree with you on certain points that he's from everything some people are telling me, he is totally the key that unlocks us being able to play three in midfield. The problem is, I don't think he's the only key that's out there that could unlock that for us. Problem is, I haven't watched enough football at the moment to go and think, Oh, it's the guy at Lille, Sangare at Lille or Toulouse. It's one of the two.
I think it's just
we're
got
seeing
one of them's
one in.
just. I think it's him. Sangare just
Yeah.
went to PSV, didn't he?
He went to PSV, so that's the one from Toulouse, and there was the guy we were linked at from Lille as well. And I know what we need.
I think the
but,
problem is that Partey isn't the single key that we need. He would be he would be one half of the key. Yeah, he needs part A to a part B. Yeah, and I see what JB's saying. That's a lot of 50 million in one hit is a lot of money to drop on someone who only partially fixes the midfield. I personally, I big fan of Partey. I like him. I hope I would like for us to sign him, but I completely understand what JB is saying. That is a lot of money to drop in one go on a player who only half fixes the midfield.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if you said to me, what situation would you need to be in to go out and do a transfer like that? I think you need to be on the cusp of something big. So, like, if you look at Van Dijk with Liverpool, if they bought him in, you know, if they dropped 70 million on a centre back in 2016, that would not have been sensible, because they were, you know, they just needed to get into the Champions League. They had a whole load of other problems to fix first. Once they were on the cusp of winning the Champions League and winning the league, that's the final piece of the jigsaw. So yeah, look, I think if you can get Partey at the right price, I think you entertain it, but you have to be very, very confident it's the right thing. And I know, you know, and I see people in there saying it's not your money, and, you know, he's worth 70 million, and that's fine. But, like, you know, if he's worth 70 and he's available for 50, if we can't afford 50, it doesn't mean, you know, we still need to consider that, right? So I agree, and I think the other thing is the mob on Twitter need to make up their mind what type of player he is. Because from what I understand, he's a very good ball progressor, good dribbler, nice passer, tidy defender. Doesn't do a lot in the final third. I've seen people call him a box-to-box. I've seen people call him a defensive midfielder. So you guys need to all get together and figure out what you want to argue before you come and start abusing everyone.
Yeah, I think I did once put in a little private chat. I was like, by going by what everyone's saying on Twitter, is he the next John Obi Mikel? Because it's that kind of player that you've just described to me, someone that plays further upfield for their national team than they do for their club side. And you say they shield the defense, but they also don't. So it's very odd, that kind of whole dynamic. And is that because it's just so multifaceted that makes it very difficult for us to envisage how you build a midfield out of the other players we've got available? Or with our coming in as well, is it our Partey and Xhaka as a midfield?
Well, it's interesting. It depends who goes, right? It's interesting. It's also interesting we stubbed Xhaka yesterday. I'm just making things up here. But, you know, if someone came along with 30 to 40 mil for Xhaka, who I like, Ceballos, our Partey, is a very good midfield three. There's balance there. Now, I don't know if that's on the agenda. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't think Xhaka, our Partey, works as well. I think you need a bit more mobility in there, but it's an interesting question.
Yeah, and I think it's one that could go on and on, but it's almost because we're getting so close to the transfer window. Let's have that decision
slamming shut.
Yeah, the other side of the weekend when we find out, well, if Alas lets us have our before Friday or after Friday, based on his comments earlier. But let's go with some more questions. Rich, who's playing with his balls at the moment, much to the delight of the chat box.
Sorry. I'll stop.
That's all right. Everybody's getting hypnotized by it, and I'm kind of enjoying watching people talking about it as well.
Stupid egg ball.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's lots of people arguing about you know, what Partey plays in as a position, and a lot of other people having a separate conversation about, is it a rugby ball or an American football that Richard's playing with, and would Leno have dropped it by now? So I'm going to use that.
I'm not going to tell them. I'm going to let them fight some more.
Absolutely. And I'm going to use that as a loving segue and go in and say the question from Jay Arsenal was, is he the only one that believes Leno will be the new boo boy in a month or two? And I'd probably argue he's already there because of how beloved Emi Martinez, who was a VAR decision away from throwing one in the net.
He knew there was a foul. He was just winding us up.
Yeah, I see. I do know what you mean. There was a lot of I saw various bits of people longing for Martinez and stuff like that. I think a little bit of that is recency bias. A little bit of that is the fact that the story of Martinez was so compelling. The fact that he'd been with us for was it almost 10 years? I don't know if he got past the 10 years, but he was due a testimonial. He'd come out of nowhere. Really, no one thought he would do as well as he did. Because people need to remember, Leno was, arguably one of our players of the season last year. He was absolutely, fantastic. And yeah, I said it in the live show. He probably could have done a little bit better for their Mane's goal. When he pushed out, he had a bit of soft hands and pushed out Salah's shot. But he also made some absolutely fantastic point blank saves in that game as well. I see what there's Julian Salmon is saying. The problem is Leno's biggest weakness is Emery's major strength. I think is he referring to the way he would come out and gather the ball and catch the ball and a bit more commanding.
Yeah, Emery can reach the crossbar, which is helpful.
I do see what they, but there was marginal difference between the two. I don't think Martinez was a clear, a clear goal, better goalkeeper than Leno is. We all absolutely bricked it when Leno initially got injured against Brighton. Because of how good he was for us. I say lay off Leno, back him. Unless Runarsson, whatever his name is, turns out to be an Thor, reincarnated or something. We got to back him. He's our number one. He didn't become a terrible goalkeeper overnight. Yes, he has his flaws. Hopefully he can work on them and get better. But it's not like he was Kepa and he was flopping at crosses left, right, and centre, and people making bad puns about him being a vampire and afraid of crosses and stuff like that. He wasn't. He just had a very different technique and style of dealing with crosses than Martinez did. I'm hoping he doesn't become a boo boy, because he's been decent for us.
Yeah. Look, I think people really want to have strong opinions on this, but I completely agree. And it's also a question of do we want a goalkeeper? What do we need right now? We need a goalkeeper who's good enough to get us into the top four. They're both good enough to get us into the top four. I don't think either of them are necessarily good enough to win us a title. But look, Leno was one of our best players last season pre-injury. He was really good. That doesn't mean we can't sit there and say, I wish he was better at dealing with crosses. I wish he was more of a presence. I wish his distribution was a bit better and he could be better with his feet. In the same way, Emi Martinez was great post-lockdown, but he's played 15 league games for Arsenal in his career, and nothing he did at Wolves, Getafe or Reading suggested he was ready to play at the top in the Premier League. So, when you get a £20 million offer, it was possible that we got the best 8 games of Emi's career, and if we'd been Leno this season, we could have had a completely different Emi this season, and he dropped one against Fulham. So, look, I don't think it mattered which one we sold. I did like what Emi gave us. I think physically it was great, and I think he was really good on the ball. But I completely agree. Leno is fine. He is not perfect. He is not Alisson, and he's not Edison, but he doesn't need to be right now for where we are as a club.
No, absolutely. And I'd still put him up there as top 3 or 4 goalkeepers in the league, I've got very, very strong opinions on the myth that is David De Gea as a goalkeeper. And yeah, if you want a goalkeeper who can't command his box, just go to Man United, please, and watch what he does. But I think, as we say, he is a perfectly serviceable goalkeeper who is getting better. And I think he may be timid coming for crosses when you see him come back. But let's look at how he got the injury that saw him go out for 4 or 5 months. It was for coming for a high ball, and he was caught by a midget underneath his legs, who may have come in and meant to do the damage that Leno received. But you get the same kind of contact at any kind of corner. And it may be a reason why Leno is a bit more timid. But you want at least your goalkeeper and the defence around to know that if Leno says to his defence, I'm not coming for any crosses, that's great. That is what you want to hit. You want someone to be decisive as a goalkeeper. And I'll come back to De Gea. Why he was so good at under Mourinho is because they'd said to that defence, you're heading everything out of here. David's staying on his line. He's not coming out of there. He's just going to do the reflexes if you miss it and utilise the best part of his game. And we just need the same from Leno. If Leno's happy coming for crosses, then he should come for those crosses. If it's the indecision is what kills goalkeepers and kills their careers. And that's the key thing that I don't think we saw necessarily from Martinez, is he tended to be quite decisive with his actions. But again, we're talking about a guy who's only just come back from injury. Whereas we've just hit the hour mark. Try and get through a few more questions. I think we need to get some typical ABW ones in there as well, because this is all too highbrow. Sorry, JB. We've got to bring it back down to the normal.
It's all right.
level.
Don't worry. I can lower the tone.
Which one should I go for first? Because Zoidberg's given us some great questions. I think I'm going to ask you, JB. Do you think there is life on other planets? Let's go existential.
Wow. I don't know if I can back up what I'm about to say, but yes, I do. Just because there's a lot of them, really, and it'd be weird if there wasn't. I probably offended some people by saying this, but I just feel like we can't comprehend how many planets there are. It'd be really funny if I was just had a PhD in astrophysics or something and then just reeled off some stats here. But I don't. I just know there's a lot and it's a big number, and therefore the probability would suggest there is. And who knows? It might be close. Didn't they find gas on one of the planets in our solar system a couple of weeks ago that suggested there was some kind of life form? I don't know. I feel like this is the wrong podcast for that. But yeah, there you go. Look at the versatility on this podcast. And
just any opinion on the internet, as long as you put it out there, someone has to find evidence to prove you wrong. Yeah, you can't disprove it. Fine. Exactly. So there's actually, if you go the other side of Neptune, right, the bit we can't see, there's just 4 guys having coffee on a just around a table. Prove me wrong. Yeah, exactly. And prove me wrong. Show me a picture.
I've just seen Thunder Road's question. Funny enough, it was Little Richard. It was Little Rich. So yeah, thanks for that, wow. Thunder Road.
Yeah, so for anybody who's not watching YouTube, Thunder Road has asked the question: basically, what nickname does Richard's missus give Rich in general? Is he Little Richard after presumably the singer, or Big Dick
posted
after
it again.
Someone else? We're just going to leave that one there, and that is
I was Little Richard because the next door neighbour, his name is Richard as well, and he was about 6'4". So yeah, he was Big Richard and I was Little Richard. So yeah, it's got nothing to do with what's between my legs, Thunder Road. I know what you're getting at, mate.
It's an American football, isn't it? From what we've seen.
Yeah, exactly. We weren't saying. Who's going to keep it a secret?
Right. I think there's one more question I think we'll go with. And I've got to find it because it came from Luca and I think it was on Twitter as well. and I've got to promote people giving us questions before the show actually starts. So, Rich, question for you. Actually, we can. Everybody can answer this. Screw it. It's the last one. YOLO. I'm hosting. I can do what I want.
Calm down.
Exactly. I know, right? I'm going to be dizzy on sugar. Rich, I'll start with you. From Luca, with 5 days left of the transfer window, do you go with apples or bananas on your breakfast oatmeal / porridge?
Or just the apples, unfortunately, because bananas are rank.
Awesome. JB?
I've been thrown by that. I didn't know people put apples in oatmeal. Honey? That wasn't an option, but I want to go honey. Yeah, but you can't tell me what to eat. So if it was apples or bananas, I'm going bananas. But do you know what? Berries are good. Blueberries are great. So blueberries and honey. That's what I'm going with.
Blueberries and honey. I don't like the texture of blueberries.
I reject the options I was given. That's what I've done.
But I'm still going to push back and say blueberries have a really weird, dense texture that I just can't get on board with.
Just use your teeth.
Yeah, it's overrated. I'm eating oatmeal for a reason.
Use a straw.
Use a straw. But then saying that, I was going to say apples because I also don't like bananas. But strictly, my porridge will be made with an alternative milk due to dietary reasons, not the glasses moustache combination that is my hipster look.
The problem with apples is they're very protective of their infrastructure.
That's true.
That's just for you, Josh, by the way.
That's
literally
perfect.
I feel like that was up your street.
It was very much up my street. However, I am doing this podcast on a Mac with my iPad next to me and my iPhone on the other side. So yeah, I'm very much caught and knowingly caught by the Steve Jobs web, so to speak.
You've just been called an apple nonce.
Yeah, Danny does despise the fact that I use a Mac for all of these bits and pieces, but you know what? I just prefer it, and viruses are overrated. I
don't know. They've shut down the world, to be honest.
That's true. So. Exactly. So if anybody needs a good reason to get a Mac, Corona. But right, let's wrap this up. So going to go through any shout outs. Rich, do you have any shout outs for?
It's similar shout out to what I normally say. The Evolve Development Centre in West London. If any of you guys listening or watching or know anybody in like the Ealing, Greenford, Hamwell, that West London area, and it's got a girls who wants to start playing football, just do a Facebook search or a web search for the Evolve Development Centre. We train girls from 5 up to 16. We're affiliated with Hamwell Town, which is our local club, and we're also a sister club of Arsenal Women as well. So yeah, everybody's we're looking for new players and stuff like that. So yeah, bring them all down.
Perfect. That's a great shout out as well. JB, do you have a shout out just to anybody in general? They could be listening to this podcast. They could be fictional, whatever. Shout out.
I wasn't expecting this, so I didn't prep anything. So shout out to all the listeners. To quote Rick Ross, shout out to all the pair. And shout out to my flatmate who's had to be quiet for an hour and a half. He said to me just before, he said, I'm going to go sit in the bath. I don't know if he's put water in, but shout out to him for getting out of the way for the last hour. So yeah.
Perfect. And I'll make sure I wrap this up swiftly enough so he doesn't go and start grabbing the toaster to join him in the bath as well. He's
turned into a full-on prune by now.
Yeah, absolutely. I will quickly give a shout out to James Rouse Stokes of Twitter fame of ex-Goonersphere. Purely, he won't know this is coming because I saw one tweet he gave and he sent over to Jock from Toast of London. It was a little screenshot of there, and it just reminded me that I've got to watch Toast of London again because it's a great show, and I forgot how much I made now look like a character from that show as a Z-list actor, like Ray Bloody Purchase and co. But yeah, that wraps up the show, I'll quickly do a bit of housekeeping. Say, previous show, Danny and Chris sat down and spoke to coffee aficionado and ex-goalkeeper of Arsenal, Rami Shaban, and had a
But
good conversation.
Bastuma hating Rami Shaban.
I still don't know what Bastuma was based on his response.
Was heartbroken. It's like a dried cure meat, breakfast meat thing that you have with eggs. I was heartbroken. I was amazed that Chris pronounced it perfectly though. I was impressed with that. But
Wow.
yeah, heartbroken.
Do you have to have it with eggs? Are there other options?
It's the law in Egypt. Otherwise, you'll be shunned and sent to Coventry.
Got it.
Great for your keto diet. I think that breakfast. If I've got keto diets right, I think that's the one where you're not allowed.
Yeah,
carbs.
you've done well. You've done well.
There we go. I am
high
down
fat.
with the kids.
High
fat, and yeah, I can do anything that's an alternative milk substance. That's about as far as my hipster diets go.
Shout out to oat milk.
Oat milk. I'm a hemp milk person, to be fair. I think this is a conversation we need to take offline rather than on a podcast. But I can put, if anybody does have an alternative milk of choice, put it in the chat box and we will pick them up after, just as a little straw poll. Next show, so we'll be doing a live show after the Liverpool game. I put a time in, I can't remember if that's the kickoff of the game or the kickoff of the live show. I think 9:30 will probably be the kickoff of the show. I'm assuming we kick off at 8 o'clock again, or 7:45. It's one of the two for the second leg of Liverpool, this time in the Carabao Cup. And then we will also be live again doing ABW Live after Sheffield United. That would be me and, as I say, one other. I don't know who it is yet. It might be Corey. It might be John Welsh. It might just be me on my own. Who knows? If the game's really rubbish and boring, it'll just be me telling you exactly what the result was, the goal scorers, and then logging off. Podcast, again, I don't know who's going to be on the pod next week. I did have an idea of who it might be, but Danny hasn't answered it properly. But yeah, we'll keep it as a secret, basically. And so, yeah, I would like to say thank you very much. Rich, you almost have to be here, but don't have to be here.
No, it was a pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
And big thank you to you, JB. Everybody can find you on Twitter at Gunnerpunner, I believe. I say I believe, I know.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on. Hopefully it's not the last time. Once you guys have all recovered, I'll be back. Maybe.
Absolutely. And if you can bring
Rich is shaking his head.
Time. Yeah. If you being on the show is what brings FK back to us, then yeah, absolutely a pleasure.
I believe
without FK as well.
I believe the time is gargantuan. I believe.
Yes, I believe. Absolutely. But right, that is the end of the show. Thank you very much, everybody who has joined us live. If you haven't managed to join us live, you can always make sure you give us like a review on whatever platform you're listening to us on. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube as well. Click the little bell notification icon thingy. And when we do know when we're actually going live after games, you'll get a notification. You can come straight back in and join us for all the fun. So the only final thing I have to say is, Danny, switch this shit off.